Imagine dropping your kids off to daycare thinking that they're in a safe environment, just to get a phone call later saying that your kid suffered a traumatic brain injury. Let's get into this video.
A daycare in El Segundo is facing a lawsuit after a toddler was dropped by a worker in what's described as a reckless moment of horse.
So why would you even be throwing a kid up like a cheerleader, thinking that that's okay? First of all, that's not even your kid. So to even be throwing up your kid is like that is just beyond crazy. But to throw the kid up like the kid is doing like a flip, it's one thing to just throw the kid up and they're going straight up and you catch them. But to throw a kid up that high in the air and they basically do a flip is just crazy. Like, that's just like unbelievable. And like, you see this other, I guess that's one of the lady's co-workers, like just like going crazy, like just like in awe of what this other worker just did, because that's just stupidity. Let's continue.
Play. That incident was captured on video. KTLA's Corinne Winter.
And to throw the kid up and the kid falls, probably basically fell on their neck. Then for you to fall and trip and basically add insult to injury and fall on the very kid that you just threw up and fell on, like that lady has to be at least probably like 140, 150. So it's bad enough the kid already fell on their neck. But for you to add insult to injury and add your 150 pounds on to that kid by falling is just beyond crazy.
Live in El Segundo with the developing details, creating that video. We all have just been saying how it's just really tough to watch.
It is tough to watch, Lauren, and because the footage is so difficult to view, a warning.
Yes, that video is definitely difficult to view, so I can just feel for the other co-worker that watched that live and in person. Like, that's insane.
To viewers now and what you're about to see. That incident had happened last year at a facility here in El Segundo.
So basically the incident, it happened last year, I believe in 2025. And the parents are just now suing them here in July of 2026. It happened at the Bay Club in El Segundo. El Segundo is in California. So they're basically, it says, according to NBC News, the lawsuit filed by parents Matthew and Eleanor Kittle alleges that the 23-month-old child sustained a traumatic brain injury and permanent hearing loss after falling roughly 6 feet onto a hardwood floor. Like, that is crazy. It's already bad that you add that the 23-month-old, which is basically almost 2 years old, like they got a traumatic brain injury plus the permanent hearing loss. Like, that's insane. And that, like, let's continue the video because it's just pissing me off just reading this.
March 17th, 2025 will begin as just another day here at the Bay Club Clubhouse in El Segundo. The sights and sounds of kids playing inside a childcare center.
Like, you can just off looking at that, she's swinging the kid. Like, usually when people throw kids up in the air, they throw them straight up in the air. Not high at all, but a decent amount of, height. But for this person to basically throw that kid up like that, basically the kid basically did a flip. So you're throwing the kid up so high in the air that they're doing a flip. Like, that's beyond crazy. and disturbing.
Turned into a horrific scene. A female childcare worker playfully grabs this 23-month-old boy in a green shirt. She picks up the toddler and starts swinging him between her legs.
Lord have
She
mercy.
lifts him up in the air. That's when the child slips from her hands and falls violently to the ground.
Again, it's bad enough the kid fell. This is hardwood floor, so like this is not like some type of carpet, some type of soft, like landing spot that you can fall on. But this is straight hardwood floor, which is hard. But for the kid to fall basically on the hardwood floor is just one thing. But for you to trip and basically fall and put all of your weight on that 2-year-old kid who's really small, it's just beyond crazy. Like, I know that it said the kid had traumatic brain injury and permanent hearing loss, but even with the fall, I don't think the kid would have had both of those serious injuries. But you tripping and falling and putting all of your weight onto that kid just basically just did the damage on top of the damage.
Employee falling on top of him.
In addition to the civil case, there should be criminal charges filed, and as part of the criminal investigation, the DA needs to do a deep dive into what...
I definitely agree with that. There needs to be criminal charges. She needs to be sued personally, and that daycare needs to be sued as well, separately, because this is just crazy.
Whether there have been any prior complaints filed against this caretaker. One of the big factual issues in a civil case like this is whether this facility had received any prior complaints about this woman being negligent in caring for kids.
More than a year after that incident, in a newly filed complaint, the child's parents are now suing the fitness club.
They definitely should sue that fitness club, like with no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I don't know why it took them a year to sue. I don't know. Matter of fact, let's look it up to see kind of why. Okay, so it says the family's attorney, Ryan Saber, claims the club downplayed the severity of the incident. So they basically lied to them about the severity of the incident. It also says initial reports from staff suggested the child had only fallen 1.5 feet and had calmed down. So they basically lied and told the parents that the child only fell 1.5 feet and had calmed down. Like, that right there is just like insane. Like, for that traumatic experience to happen, then for you on top of that to call the parents and lie to them like they aren't going to take them to the hospital, and the hospital aren't going to do what they do to tell you the severity of basically what happened. Don't get me wrong, the hospital don't know what happened per se, but they can tell a 3-foot fall compared to a 1.5 foot fall. That's a big difference. That's like, it's just crazy. It also says that though his father later found him with a swollen eye and significant bruising, it says the lawsuit contends that the Bay Club was operating its childcare center without a required California daycare license. So they basically was operating without a daycare license. So that right there alone is just illegal. So, like, that lawsuit, they definitely should get a lot of money, but that money is not going to replace that child having a traumatic brain injury and basically having permanent hearing loss. It also says, while the California Department of Social Services provides exemptions for facilities where parents remain on site, the family argues this did not apply because the father was permitted to work out at a separate Bay Club location a mile away. Like, this is a crazy story. Like, for them to, on top of the traumatic experience, but for them to not have a California daycare license on top of that is just insane. Let me know what y'all think in the comments about this story, because this story is crazy. Make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.